Thank you for meeting with us this morning, Mr. Malone, and thank you to our viewers joining us live on Periscope. I'm Sherry Beasley, and today we are in the lobby of Armstrong Auditorium with the composer of the oratorio Song of Songs, Mr. Ryan Malone. Thanks for being here with us this morning, Mr.
Thanks
Malone.
for having me.
So Song of Songs is the final concert in the season here at Armstrong and will be performed this Thursday, April 7th. The text of the oratorio is from the book, The Song of Solomon, which is known as beautiful romantic poetry, but as the oratorio brings out, there's a remarkable love story in the text. Can you tell us about the plot in the story of Song of Songs?
Definitely. As I was able to explain in the Music for Life episode, the initial reading of Song of Solomon is, wow, this is just a lot of romantic ooey-gooey poetry. But then if you go through it and you look at the point of view of the specific poems, and you look at how it's set up, I mean, this beautiful plot emerges where there's this husband who's trying to woo back an unfaithful wife, so it's not just romantic poetry. There's this tinge of melancholy. There's this tinge of angst to it all, that he loves her so much and he wants to woo her back. And so as the story unfolds, you know, she thinks she's all right, having the affair and having him. She feels like, you know, she can keep both things going. You hear that from her point of view, but then time goes on, and then she starts to become aware of her mistake, and then eventually puts her singular focus back on him, and it's just this beautiful story, really. And even if you know, it really wouldn't matter what your denomination or creed or faith or anything. When you see a story like this, it really is timeless. It's universal. It's, you know, like I said in the episode, it's a story of unfaithfulness and betrayal, but also of like forgiveness and redemption. So there's all these beautiful universal elements in this plot, and then it's a series of love songs too as well. So as a listener of the music, you know, it's a night of just splendid love songs. so the plot and the music, I think, make for just a beautiful marriage, if you will, for this oratorio.
And the Song of Solomon, it's captured the imagination, like you said, of artists, poets, and composers throughout history. But this is the first composition to set the entire text to music. So can you tell us a little about the process you used in writing Song of Songs?
Sure. I wrote it back in 2011, and as far as I know, it's the only work to set the entire book, and really one that is, or at least in the intent of capturing the entire story flow as well. I mean, I know that you know, Pergolesi said a lot of the Song of Solomon in, you know, a lot of his motets and things. But and there are several others, like musicians who were enamored by certain texts. You know, the "Set Me as a Seal" text has been set numerous times by composers. But yeah, back in 2011, the idea of trying to capture this story flow in this work, this choral-dominated work. Yeah, I went back to the English translation found in the King James Version. But then also, I went to a lot of other translations, and went to the original Hebrew to look at, you know, the meaning of the words, and try to first put together a text that was singable in terms of like the meter. You know, certain words, the arrangement of certain words makes for a more singable meter sometimes, and so very painstakingly going through all the Hebrew meanings and the different English versions, and you know, what the interpretation itself really was about. What is this trying to get across anyway? And taking all that into consideration to come up with a libretto, as we call it, the text for an oratorio. And so, I mean, it pretty much was there, but just with some finessing on my part to try to get it into a singable format. And then the process of figuring out, well, who should represent what. You have the husband in the story, and so he's represented by a male voice. Obviously, that was the most obvious choice for me. And then the female, because of the double-minded nature, there's parts where she's talking about her husband to other people, and there's or she's talking about the king she's having an affair with. Then there's also the woman talking directly to the husband, and so I decided, well, that would be neat to represent by two different components, and one is the soprano soloist who represents the voice of this woman speaking to her husband. Whenever she sings, she's always saying, "You are this and you are that," and then the chorus represents the other side of that double-minded woman, that she's singing about him to other people. And so so that really helps set some boundaries for what I needed to do with the plot. And then as the redemption and as her singular focus returns toward the end, in that climactic movement, "Set me as a seal upon your heart. Love is strong as death. I'm willing to die for our love now." Putting the soprano with the chorus, I don't know if anyone's going to consciously be thinking of it unless they know this element of it, but the idea that, like, wait, now the soprano and the chorus are singing together, and their singular focus is back on just their undying love for the husband. So that helped determine, who would sing what, and then of course, like I explained in the Music for Life episode, there's just a handful of musical ideas that are peppered throughout the entire work that help tie it all together. So your ear is hearing a lot of recurring material. It helps keep your mind, or it just helps keep the ear connected to what's happening. And I remember that music happened when I heard this phrase of text or that type of thing. Helps unify the experience, I think, for the listener. So that's something I did back in 2011 when I was writing it, and then just right at the beginning of 2012, we recorded it with basically our amateur group here, about 24 people doing it unaccompanied, a cappella. It was originally written unaccompanied, and so we recorded that, and then we wanted to stage it on a more professional level, and so hence the revision, I guess you could say, that's being debuted Thursday night.
Okay. And like you said, it was recorded unaccompanied, but this time we're going to be seeing it rearranged, including the 20-piece professional orchestra. So how will this performance be different than the original in 2012?
Right. If you've heard any of the original online, it's a small chorus. This is about 60 plus people in the chorus, and they've worked on it. This isn't a side project we threw together in a month. This is something we've worked on all academic year, and we've hired a professional orchestra to play with it. And so I've had to rewrite the parts. Everything was sung chorally. Even all the solos were accompanied by chorus before, oohs and ahs and that type of thing. Puts a lot of pressure on the chorus. Now we've put that in the strings, and the strings, obviously they have a different color than the voices, but they also add such a depth of tone to the voices. I mean, when you hear the different kinds of string writing there is with this, it gives the ear more variety to latch onto. For instance, the strings will be utilizing, the bow technique. There'll be some plucking, some pizzicato. There'll also be some more unusual or maybe a little bit less used things like harmonics, that kind of the whistly sound that the violins can get. But also even in one movement, some ponticello, some bowing on the bridge, which gives it this really like eeky, gritty, eerie sound. So just all sorts of different colors that are now available because of the string orchestra, on top of just the immense depth of the chorus, a bigger chorus. So it's just going to be, I think, just a wonderfully rich experience aurally to accompany like this story.
And now you've composed the oratorio Song of Songs, as well as several other musicals over the years based on biblical and historical characters. So as a composer, you're usually working on your next musical. So would you mind telling your audience a little bit about what you're currently working on right now?
Sure, yeah. I'm doing Song of Songs. After we did that the first time, we started this slew of biblically based musicals, and so yeah, I'm always working on the next thing. When we're doing the one thing now, like Song of Songs, I'm working on the next thing. We've done the story of Jeremiah, the story of King David, the story of Isaiah and Hezekiah and Sennacherib, that tale in there. And we also, even with our students, staged a production about Peter Waldo, a figure in the medieval era of church history. And so I'm really excited now because even as I'm working right now on this performance, I'm also, in terms of just preparing for it vocally, compositionally, I'm working on the story that's found in the book of Ruth. And that's it's really a story about Naomi and her daughter-in-law Ruth, and then the man Boaz, who of course marries Ruth. And so it's just this beautiful tale. It's beautiful history that's captured in that biblical book. It's just such a wonderful account. I think Ben Franklin was known to have told the story of the book of Ruth to people who were skeptical or who didn't like the Bible, and he changed all the characters' names, and he got the people he was talking to just like, wow, I love that story. And then he told them what it was really from and who the names really were, and so he kind of sold them on that component of the Bible. So I think no matter, again, it's one of these like timeless love stories, like the Song of Songs, where no matter where you come from, there's elements of this that like everyone's going to enjoy. And so I'm working on that right now very, very ferociously because we want to premiere it at the end of December. So we're really excited to debut that at the end of December. So I'm working on that right now, which I'll get back to here in just a minute.
Oh yeah, we can't wait to hear more about that. And we can't wait to hear as that progresses. But finally, I'd just like to end by asking, is there anything else you'd like to tell everyone who's watching here live on Periscope this morning?
Well, just that the Music for Life episode really explains, it's 55 minutes, and it explains so much about what we're going to hear Thursday night. And I think, just getting your mind around that is just going to help you get the full picture of what's happening in such a beautiful way, in a timeless way. I think in a universal way. Again, I think everyone can relate to it, no matter no matter where we come from, no matter what our belief system. I think this is going to capture just the imaginations and the hearts of everyone who comes and listens to it.
Okay, well, thank you again for being here with us this morning, Mr. Malone, on Periscope. Before your concert this Thursday, we can't wait for the performance. And for our viewers today, for more information about Song of Songs, watch Mr. Malone's latest episode of Music for Life, and that's on kpcg.fm for the pre-concert talk. Again, this is Sherry with Mr. Ryan Malone here at Armstrong Auditorium. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.